What happens when two 12-year-olds write a movie script based on characters from a mid-level Saturday Night Live skit?
Hold on. Who said there were 12?
Find out next on Trees in Space. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Trees in Space, the show where we watch all the movies and tell you what the fans thought, what the critics thought, and what we think. Is it worthy of a complete forest or just a twig? I am Jason, along with Nate, as always. And in case you missed the thumbnail, this week we watched the 1998 comedy, A Night at the Roxbury. Now, Nate explained to me when I said when we watch this, he said it's one of his all-time favorite films.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I prefaced the fact that I haven't seen this movie in years. But I had seen this movie enough to know that I didn't actually have to watch this movie to discuss this movie. Uh, but I watched it and it's one of the best, one of my all-time favorite movies. Uh,
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 well, why don't you tell everyone what this movie is about? Because I didn't write it down, and I know that's my job. But seeing how you're the pro of
yeah.
this,
So I almost went straight into it. I was gonna almost gonna hijack your movie review.
hijack it, baby. I love it when you hijack me.
Uh, but yeah, so it stars the Butabi brothers, Doug and Steve, which I totally forgot their names, but I knew who anyway. And essentially they
Wait,
love
wait, wait, wait. I'm sorry. They're brothers.
no. Yeah,
Yes.
man.
Names?
The Butabi.
Steve Butabi.
Your brothers?
No. Yes.
It's quite a joke.
So yes, the Butabi brothers essentially love clubbing. They still live at home with their parents, and their overall quest is to get into the Roxbury Club. And thanks to Richard Grieco from 21 Jump Street, they finally get into the Roxbury, and essentially their lives from working at their father's fake plant shop completely change in one night at the Roxbury.
That I am going to say that whenever from this point on, when I talk about a movie or Nate says I want to watch this movie, and he says, you know what's one of my favorite movies of all time? I'm not going to watch this movie. Pineapple Express, Boone, and Not at Roxbury. Not
What's wrong with this movie? This movie is like, look, I get
I can see the appeal if you're a teenager, 14, 15, maybe even 20.
I think it's so stupid that it's magnificent. Like, these guys are idiots. Absolutely idiots. And like when they get they're at the Roxbury and they meet Mr. Zadir. And
Zadir. I like Mr. Zadir.
is the owner of this club, and they were like, yeah, this place is great, not as good as the one down there, the mud whatever, it kind of sucks. He's like, oh, I own that one too. And they're like, well, the parking's great. And he's like, oh, but you're right, boys, it always changes.
Yes.
Hey, Jason, did you just touch my ass?
No. There was parts of this movie where I laughed out loud. I did. I didn't like belly laugh, but it was a chuckle, out loud chuckle. And the first real one came when at the Roxbury, the two girls came up and said, "Do you want to whatever?" They said, "Do you want to dance?" And they go, "Okay." Like they always get told no. They
Yeah.
said yes. They went to the dance floor, and the dancing that these boys did, they did earlier on in the movie, got me to smile. But this aggressive, I, I was like, okay, that must be the skit. The skit must be them at the bar doing the head thing and dancing on girls like this. That
Yeah.
must be the whole skit. They made a movie around that
Pretty
because that
much.
part was funny.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Um, Now I will say the one that uh gives it to Chris Kattan, Doug.
Shorter of the two, yes.
Yeah. Oh, I remembered childhood like cranking it to her. Like
You
I
know, she's also the girlfriend in Dude, Where's My Car? One of the two girlfriends in that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
love her so hot.
I do like the whole dance because they were doing that crazy stuff, but by the end of the dance, they were dancing together, putting their hands on each other's butts, and I was like, okay, that whole scene was pretty good. I
Yeah.
didn't find that scene whatsoever.
Uh
Go
every
ahead.
time Richard Grieco was in it was magnificent. He
I don't
acted
want to get sued. I
yeah,
just hope he goes to a wedding because he doesn't want to get sued.
Mr. Butabi. I read people for a living. I'm an actor.
Yeah. He and Richard Grieco at that point in time was still a pretty big star. I mean, 21 Jump Street probably just ended maybe 5 years earlier, so I guess he wasn't huge, but I mean, he's in the movie.
Enough, right?
But I thought Will Ferrell was going to be the main. I don't think he was a main character, but I would say that Chris Kattan was more the main character than
But
Will. And I thought Will Ferrell was going to be the main character. It was nice to see him not be the main character and not. It's a step brother esque, is what this is. This is basically step brother, but I like Will Ferrell being stupid, but not as stupid, or because he wasn't stupid. He was just
slow.
yeah, and because he's like, you gotta put the whole number in and then push the pound button for that to work. Talking
Right.
about the phones. Well, look at you, fancy pants or whatever.
Ooh, fancy pants, Rich McGee over here. Fuck you.
It's a shame because I forgot. I love Chris Kattan.
Yeah,
I thought he was a great actor, and I think he got into drugs and alcohol and all that, and he kind
is
of
that what it
fell.
was? I know he played a monkey boy in a movie or something, or maybe it was the skit.
Funky Bone was in there, but he was also in Corky Romano, which
That's what it was.
uh that movie may come up. It might. It's awfully. It's. I'm not gonna get into it. What about Molly Shannon? How did you feel about her in this movie?
When I first saw her, I was like, okay, this is Molly Shannon. I knew who she was immediately. And I was like, she's playing a typical Molly Shannon character until she's having sex with Will Ferrell and she's riding him like in a sexual thing and going, Kia. And I'm like, am I now sexually attracted to Molly Shannon?
And it,
1998? Because I didn't think I was, but now I'm wondering.
she was hot. She was super hot. What else is there to say?
I don't know. It was like, damn, Molly. I mean, I didn't realize I had that kind of
I didn't
don't get me
know.
wrong,
I didn't know I wanted to open a furniture store and
furniture store with
business, but now I do. Fuck yeah.
yeah. She and he was right. Will Ferrell, like she was a totally completely different person when we started dating, and that I like that idea because it shows reality. You think someone's a certain way when you first meet them, and they really aren't. Because he's always like, "Oh, I can't be with you, man, because I'm a rebel, and you're the girl next door." And I do appreciate the fact they did not try to stretch this into an hour and a half, when an hour would have been plenty, but they had to make it movie, so they had to make it at least an hour 20.
Right. Now this is your first time watching this movie.
Yes, I've
Now,
never seen it.
like, I don't know if I want to really get into that question with you because it could lead into how many trees you're potentially going to give this. But watching it for the first time, Like, were you just like, man, this is so stupid. I can't believe they made this a movie, or were you actually like pleasantly surprised? Like,
I was not pleasantly surprised, but I was surprised. But I also, like I said, have to realize it's a Saturday Night Live skit made into a movie. Most of those are not good. Most of those are, I think Wayne's World was probably the biggest one.
yep.
Um, that was actually not a bad movie, but the rest of them are just, they're not great. So as far as the SNL skit movies, and I've seen a few of them, probably 5 or 6. Um, this is definitely not the worst.
This movie, I think, hit me at that right age. Because again, it
Yeah.
was 8. I was 12, somewhere in that ballpark. So yeah, this movie definitely hit me at like the peak of adolescence and definitely set me on a trajectory of like, oh, this is how you talk to women.
Yeah.
There's a lot of my humor comes from this movie.
I can see this.
Colin Quinn, this was a peak This had a lot of people at peak of their careers.
Yes, it did.
98. So this movie at that time had a really stellar cast.
You're right. There was nothing really wrong with this film. And I'm not gonna hold it against the film because of its 1998 and the what it was. It's a Saturday Night Live skit. It's what it was. I did laugh, and I did have to watch it in 3 parts though.
Yeah, I ended up breaking it up too. And it wasn't because I couldn't watch it or like I was like it didn't take priority in my life.
Right.
It's so great because again, it's they come from a dreamer's perspective. Like
Right.
yes, they're from California. Their family has money for
Plenty of it.
for owning a fake plant store.
I'm telling you, it's
But they come from money, but they have nothing, and they just want to come out of their father's shadow. They want to have something. They know they have ideas. They know they're smart, and they
right.
can.
See, Doug is the dreamer, and that's the Chris Katan.
Yep.
And Will Ferrell is the hype guy, if you will, without saying no to his brother. Even though he wants to do right by his father, also
Right.
kind of stuck there. But the first 5 stars comes from Greg L. This is such a funny movie. Yes, it's idiotic, but also very entertaining. Like me and Nate. Don't care what the critics say.
Well, I mean, all right.
Mhm.
1 star or less comes from an unknown. This was painful to watch. I can't stand Will Ferrell, and Chris Kattan only got the role because it was a bit on an SNL. It was the stupidest bits they ran on SNL, and they made it into a movie? I digress. Watch Idiocracy, and all shall be explained.
Okay, do not pull Mr. Man, the name of Idiocracy, into this film. That's just disrespectful for both films because you can't put them together. You're anyways. It's I don't know. Undercover Brother was the worst movie. Superstar was, and these are all what?
Superstar Undercover Brother was not very good.
No,
Superstar was.
yeah, it was okay. Molly Shannon again, but I'm saying there's a lot worse skits, skit movies.
You got to remember, Tommy Boy and the other one, Black Sheep. Those were SNL skits as well.
Time Boy wasn't.
I believe it came from an SNL thing.
There's no. We'll look it up. I just know it's SNL actors that were playing in it. Doesn't mean it was a skit.
Go ahead and insert that somewhere.
I will. So, the next 5 stars review. Kindle Less. I can watch this movie 1,000 times and never get tired of it. I love it. I have an IQ of 90. It doesn't say that part, but That's probably insulting to people because there's probably a lot of people with an IQ of 90.
I don't even, is there a way you could test your IQ? Like online IQ test that's
An
like
actual one, probably not, but I mean, you maybe, maybe you have to pay some money for an actual one though.
hmm. This
It's the closest thing we'd have is your GT score in the military from your line scores. That's probably very close to your IQ.
oh, so I'm not much smarter than a 90. This 1 star or less comes from an unknown. This movie almost made me bad trip.
That's it.
Yeah.
This movie made me back. Okay, if you're gonna run down the movie, have the guts to write your name. Okay, the last 5-star review comes from Unknown. This movie is absolutely great. There is no other way to put it. The music in this movie is fantastic. It's what I grew up on and still listen to. The movie is a classic. Steve and Doug are two great characters. I thought a skit on Saturday Night Live was great, but this movie tops it all.
I agree.
Some of the mooses,
The Mooses?
Doug and somebody, the brothers.
Oh, Bob and Doug McKenzie.
That's it. Okay.
Was it that SNL skit?
I think it was.
SNL has produced a lot of movies, apparently. Huh.
Yeah.
This last 1 star or less comes from unknown. When I was a kid, I loved this film, and for nostalgia's sake, I can quote it like a mother. But out of all the SNL cast comedies, especially going into the 2000s, it's quite weak.
Okay. Well, I think that's fair. I think most SNL skits are pretty basic and not great, but
I was concerned.
this
This, I was worried nostalgia was going to take over and like this. Yeah, I had to worry about this movie.
well, now the WTF one, and I swear it's on here. I have no this was 4 stars, by the way. The 4-star review here from Unknown. Fuck you, Rotten Tomatoes. And I think I know why.
Yeah, I think I do as well.
So
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes gave this movie a score of 11%. I don't know if we've had 0% because they weren't rated before.
Is this the lowest rating?
I think it is. And the audience aptly or rated it at 69%. Where do you rate this movie at between those two?
I am closer to the audience score on this one.
Yeah, that's fair. So I am now going to tell you what I think, which is what I just started doing. I would not recommend this movie to my surgeon because I would presume my surgeon is way too mature to enjoy this kind of comedy. I'm hoping. Will Ferrell was fine. I actually liked him. Chris Katan.
You're
Yes.
not a Ferrell fan.
I'm not. It was like I could tell like his first movie because you could tell him becoming the actor he became and him trying to do that. So good cast. The acting was fine. It was a perfect, 120 something minutes. Great music. But it's this SNL skit, and I don't think it needed to exist, but that's most of them. I am going to be generous because I did laugh at this. I'm going to give it 2 trees.
I think that's a very fair rating as well. I might recommend this to my surgeon. Because this was a really good cast of SNL characters during this period, and I think nostalgia will take over. And I alluded to nostalgia before, and I was worried about watching this movie because it was one of my most favorite movies ever. And I was concerned that I wasn't going to be partial. However, after rewatching this movie, I loved it. I laughed. I could quote it. It brought me back to 98, baby. It felt amazing. I knew where I was. I remember watching this movie nonstop, and I don't think I owned it. So with that, it's a three tree movie. It it was good. I enjoyed the fact I could go back to 98. It made me laugh. Was it a great movie? No. It's silly, it's dumb, but it's a quick movie that you can check out too.
Now, you have heard what we think, but what do we know? We want to know what you think. So please leave a comment about this film or another film that you want us to watch. Please leave a like, subscribe. It helps us put out the content. It helps us feed the algorithm monster so we can get this to more people. So thank you for coming and visiting, and we will see you next Friday on our next installment of Trees in Space.
What?